When I first landed in America, I thought I was chasing a dream. But what shocked me wasn't the country, it was who I became inside it. Stay with me until the end, because the final lessons will truly change your perspective. When I first arrived in America, the thing that shook me the most was not the skyscrapers, not the speed, not even the scale of ambition. It was the silence around my name. Back home, a name carries weight. It carries history, community context. It walks into the room before you do. But there, I was simply me. No one cared who I had been. No one adjusted the temperature of the room because of my past. And in that quiet indifference, I discovered something both terrifying and liberating. When no one defines you, you are forced to define yourself. That realization can feel like standing at the edge of a cliff without a safety net. Because if no one labels you as talented, disciplined, intelligent, worthy, then you must choose to embody those qualities without applause. And let me tell you, that is where real identity is forged. Identity is not a bio. It is not an introduction. It is not even your resume. Identity is the story you tell yourself when the world isn't watching. It is the standard you hold when nobody is scoring you. In America, I learned that nobody is responsible for announcing your greatness. You either step into it or you shrink into invisibility. There were rooms where I was unknown, underestimated, even misunderstood. And in those moments I had a choice. Wait to be recognized or recognize myself. That is the moment adulthood truly begins. When you stop outsourcing your validation, think about your own life for a second. How often are you waiting? Waiting for your parents to understand you. Waiting for your boss to notice you. Waiting for your partner to affirm you. Waiting for the world to say, yes, you are enough. But what if the world is waiting for you to say it first? Responsibility for your identity is not just empowering, it is sacred. Because once you accept it, you stop blaming. You stop pointing fingers at your upbringing, your circumstances, your geography. You begin to ask a different question. Who do I choose to be in this moment? And that question is revolutionary. I remember walking into auditions where nobody knew my journey, my struggles, my sacrifices. I could have carried resentment. I could have thought, don't they know what I've done? But that mindset keeps you small. The world owes you nothing. And that truth is not harsh. It is freeing. Because if it owes you nothing, then every opportunity is a gift and every outcome is feedback. When you take full ownership of your identity, excuses disappear. You stop saying, this is just how I am. Instead, you begin to ask, is this who I want to be? That subtle shift changes everything. You are not fixed. You are not trapped. You are not trapped in an old version of yourself. You are not obligated to repeat yesterday's patterns. Identity is not cement. It is clay. And every day, through your choices, you sculpt it. But here is the deeper spiritual truth beneath all of this. When you take responsibility for your identity, you align with your higher self. You stop performing for approval and start acting from conviction. You wake up and decide, today, I will be disciplined, even if you feel lazy. Today, I will be kind, even if you feel hurt. Today, I will be courageous, even if you feel afraid. That is power, and it is a quiet power, not loud, not arrogant, just steady, like a mountain that does not need to announce its height. And I know this might feel overwhelming because responsibility can feel heavy. It is easier to blame. Easier to say the system is unfair, the timing is wrong, the resources are lacking. And sometimes, yes, those challenges are real. But Even within limitation, you still control your response. You still control your effort. You still control your integrity. That is your territory. That is your sovereignty. And when you master that, something shifts inside you. You stop being a victim of circumstance and become an architect of character. Let me ask you something. If everything external was stripped away, who would you be? Without your job title, without your social media following, without your relationship status, would you still feel valuable? That question is uncomfortable. But stay with me, because the lessons ahead are even more powerful. And if you leave before the final points, you'll regret missing the deeper transformation waiting for you. Identity built on applause is fragile. Identity built on awareness is unshakable. America taught me that nobody is coming to rescue your potential. Nobody is coming to insist that you dream bigger. Nobody is coming to drag you out of mediocrity. You must choose expansion. And that choice must be made daily, not once, not when motivation strikes. Daily. Responsibility for your identity also means responsibility for your energy, the way you enter a room, the way you treat people who cannot benefit you, the way you speak about yourself when you fail. I learned that character is revealed in anonymity. When no one is watching, do you still show up prepared? When no one is praising you, do you still give your best? When no one is correcting you, do you still correct yourself? That is self-leadership. And self-leadership is the foundation of every external success. Because here's the truth. You cannot build a powerful life on a weak self-concept. If deep down you believe you are undeserving, you will sabotage opportunity. If deep down you believe you are undeserving, you will sabotage opportunity. Are incapable, you will shrink in decisive moments. So responsibility means doing the inner work, healing insecurities, challenging limiting beliefs, forgiving your past self, upgrading your standards. It is not glamorous work. It is silent. It is often lonely, but it is transformative. And this is only the beginning of the journey. Because once you own your identity, you unlock confidence. Once you unlock confidence, you learn discipline. Once you learn discipline, you master time. And each step builds upon the other. But none of it happens until you accept this first truth. You are responsible for who you become. Not your parents, not your critics, not your competition. You. And that realization, as shocking as it was, became my greatest empowerment. Because if I am responsible, then I am capable. If I am responsible, then I am not powerless. If I am responsible, then my future is not random. It is responsible to my choices. So today I want you to look at your life and ask yourself, where am I still giving away authorship? Where am I still waiting to be defined? And what would happen if I chose right now to step into a higher version of myself? Don't rush this reflection. Sit with it, feel it, because what comes next in this journey will challenge you even more deeply. And the final lessons hold truths that can completely reshape the way you see success, failure, and When your purpose, stay with me, don't drift away. Now the transformation you are seeking begins with this decision to own your name, your story, your standard, and your soul. Once you do that, the world doesn't need to recognize you immediately because you will already be standing in your power. The second thing that truly shocked me was this. Confidence here was not treated like a personality trait you're born with. It was treated like a muscle you build. And that changed me. Because for so long, many of us grow up believing confidence belongs to the naturally outspoken, the effortlessly charming, the ones who seem fearless from the start. But what I began to witness was something far more powerful. People speaking up before they felt ready, pitching ideas before they felt perfect, raising their hands even when their voices trembled. It wasn't arrogance, it was practice. It wasn't ego, it was repetition. And I realized something deeply spiritual in that observation. Confidence is a discipline. It is an agreement you make with yourself to show up fully, even when self-doubt whispers that you are not enough. I remember sitting in rooms where conversations moved fast, where ideas were thrown onto the table without apology, where disagreement wasn't taken personally but seen as intellectual engagement. At first, it intimidated me. I thought maybe they're just more confident. But as I watched closely, I saw the cracks, the hesitation before speaking, the quick glance at notes, the recalibration mid-sentence. They weren't fearless. They were committed to participation over perfection. And that was liberating. Because perfection is paralyzing. Perfection says, wait until you're flawless. Discipline says, show up and refine as you go. And that subtle shift can transform your entire life. Think about how often you've held back in meetings, in relationships, in creative pursuits, because you felt you needed one more certification, one more compliment, one more sign. But confidence does not arrive as a gift. It is forged in the friction of action. It is built in the gym of repetition. The first time you speak up, your voice may shake. The second time, it shakes less. The 10th time, you begin to own the room, not because you became someone else, but because you kept your promise to yourself. And that is what discipline really is. Self-loyalty. It is choosing your growth over your comfort. Again and again. There were auditions I walked into where I could feel the doubt crawling up my spine. The mind is dramatic. It will show you every possible failure before you even open your mouth. But discipline became my anchor. Preparation became my prayer. I would remind myself, you have done the work, now honor it. Confidence rooted in disc. Ip-line is not loud. It does not need to dominate. It stands steady because it is backed by effort. And that steadiness is magnetic. You see, when confidence is built on external validation, it fluctuates. One rejection and it collapses. One criticism and it spirals. But when confidence is built on preparation, on hours unseen, on sacrifices, uncelebrated, it becomes resilient. It becomes unshakable. America taught me that nobody waits for you to feel ready. Opportunities move, conversations continue, life flows. And if you hesitate too long, you watch from the sidelines. That realization was uncomfortable, but it was awakening. Because it forced me to stop romanticizing readiness and start respecting preparation. There's a difference. Readiness is emotional. Preparation is practical. You may never feel ready, but you can always choose to prepare. And preparation breeds trust. Trust in your ability to adapt. Trust in your ability to recover. Trust in your ability to learn. And trust is the foundation of real confidence. Let me tell you something many people won't admit. Even the most accomplished individuals feel doubt. The difference is not the absence of fear. It is the management of it. Discipline teaches you to act despite fear, to breathe through it, to move with it. Like a dancer who knows the stage might be slippery, but trusts her training enough to glide anyway, confid. It is not the elimination of nerves, it is the mastery of response. And mastery requires repetition. It requires humility. It requires the willingness to look foolish in the beginning. That's the part most people avoid. We want the spotlight without the stumbles. We want the applause without the awkwardness. But growth does not work that way. It is messy. It is layered. It is earned. And the beauty of seeing confidence as discipline is this: it becomes accessible to everyone. You don't have to be born bold. You just have to be willing to practice bravery, small acts, daily, send the email, share the idea, set the boundary, start the project, finish the workout, keep the promise. Each action is a brick. And over time, those bricks build an unbreakable inner foundation. Now, I know some of you listening might be thinking, but what if I fail publicly? What if I'm judged? Let me ask you something deeper. What is the cost of staying silent? What is the price of living beneath your potential? Regret is heavier than embarrassment. Silence is more suffocating than criticism.